And she says, here, put this in your pocket. And she says, if we happen to get pulled over, cops are not going to search you. But if for some reason they do, just tell them that you found this. Tell them that you found it, you didn't know what it was, and you were just playing with it. I'm like, okay, Mom.
Look, guys, this is one of those episodes that we're really just going to be kind of learning alongside you today and listening to some stories from our friend that joins us on the show today. And so buckle up and enjoy the show. Jason Hughes, welcome to Broken Perspective.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. What are we drinking today, Daigle?
Oh, today we got Tiki Time, which is from Cali Craft Brewing, which I think is in Walnut Creek. So it's a tropical wheat.
Nice. I don't think I've had anything from this.
I don't think I have either. Let's give it we're all going to be attempting this for the first time.
All right, let's pour it.
And if you want to fit into this show, Jason, you have to do a terrible job with the pour.
He definitely fits
Oh,
in.
Did I fit in? There we are.
You're going to fit in great.
All right.
Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
Thank you for coming on.
That was mostly foam.
Pretty good. Different.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, well, Jason, appreciate you coming on the show today. As I mentioned a little bit, and Daigle said, you guys known each other for a little while. This is actually my first time getting to hang out with you, I think, over the last several years. Yeah. Maybe we can jump in first, because most of us are learning who you are for the first time. A little bit about you, maybe just share your kind of high-level bio, if you will, of who you are, where you're from, and then we'll just kind of hang out and get going from there.
All right. Yeah. So my name's Jason Hughes. I've known Jeff for about 8 years now. Got the pleasure of really getting to know him and his family during baseball. Our kids played baseball together, and ever since then, been hanging out as much as we can with him and his kids, and great family. So I have basically lived in the Sacramento County for my entire life, but all over Sacramento County, especially when I was younger. Finally settled in Carmichael and went to high school in Carmichael, finished up there, did a little bit of college here and there, worked for private companies, moved on to the state, and settled down, raised a family here. Met my wife back in 2000, started dating late 2000, so it's almost 26 years now. That's it. Living life now with 4 boys.
4 boys.
4 boys.
Yeah. So, one of the fascinating things when getting to know you is when you were telling me a little bit about your upbringing. You were pretty reluctant at first, but now that the cameras are on, you had a wild, and not in a positive way, you had a wild childhood. If I understand,
here we go.
From my understanding, never knew your father.
For the most part. Yeah.
Okay. And then mom had some issues. Do you want to kind of share one of the stories, I think, early on that can give people a little insight to some of your upbringing?
Okay.
or maybe even before an exact story, just share a little bit about your upbringing. Like, what was your family like? Did you have siblings, stuff like that? And then we can ease into some of the more interesting stuff.
Juicy stuff, I
guess. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, raised by a single mom. My mom had me when she was just barely 19.
Okay.
Really wasn't even planning on keeping me, but her dad was like, no, you're going to keep him. And so she did. She was with her dad from, probably she moved out with him, ran away with him when he was like 13. And right away, they got into dealing drugs. That was how they made a living. That's how they made money. So my mom had me. I have 2 siblings. I have a brother and a sister through my mom's side, and all 3 of us actually have different dads throughout. So my brother's about 3 years younger than I am. My sister's 10 years younger than I am. And my mom raised the 3 of us for up until I was about 14. She went to jail a couple times and didn't meet my dad at all till I was 10. Met him for the first time, and it's funny. I knock on his door. And it was my mom's friend that actually took me to see him, because my mom was like, I'm not taking you to see him, So went to his house. A friend of my mom's brought me there, knock on the door, and his daughter or stepdaughter opens the door, and she looks at me and goes, because apparently I look just like my dad.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, hold on a second. And so I go in, I sit down on a couch much like this and wait for like 10 minutes because he's in the back room doing the stuff my dad did at the time.
Yeah.
And he comes out and looks at me and he goes, it's been a while.
So he recognized you. He knew right away.
He knew, yeah.
Gotcha.
But at the same time, he had never met me. I would say, yeah, about 10 years. Like,
wow.
So didn't really know him and didn't really get to know him. Hung out with him a couple times, but that was really it. I've gotten to know him more now in my adult life than any time during my childhood.
So 10 years old, haven't met your dad. You had the courage to just go knock on a door and go meet him.
Man, you say courage. I don't know that it was courage. I was very eager to.
Okay.
Like the only male figures I had at that time were my mom's boyfriends and stuff, and none of them were really great role models or anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I was expecting, but yeah, I don't know that it was courage. I just really wanted to see my dad.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because I have a similar upbringing, minus maybe the jail stuff, but like single mom, me and my sister, she's 5 years older, different dads. Never met my dad. My mom became a single mom pretty much right after birth and was like, you don't want to be a part of our life, kind of, fuck off. She was a very independent person and just wanted to raise us on her own. And I like how you changed it from courage to just being eager though. Like I think early on as a child, I was very eager, wanting to know my dad, always asking questions. And unfortunately my mom didn't, she didn't have a relationship with my dad for a long time. So it wasn't like photos and stuff to share with me. And, but yeah, as I've gotten older, like I don't know that I would want to necessarily meet my dad, but, so I'm interested in your story and like what you have to tell us more about that, because I think it's cool that you got to do that. And I'm interested. So yeah, please go on.
Yeah. Specifically about meeting him or just in general, kind of what
maybe
happened?
just like what you felt like meeting him for the first time and what did that look like?
Yeah, like I said, it was eagerness. And I thought, thinking back to my like 10-year-old self now, I thought it was going to turn into something. I thought this was like a pivotal moment in my life where now I'm going to have a dad kind of thing. And it didn't really turn into that. And I don't know that I was necessarily upset or anything about it. It just was.
Right.
I think actually going on through a lot of these stories, that's going to be kind of the motive of a lot of this stuff is like, it just was. It's just how it is. And it didn't really affect me too much. But I would say that the dynamic changed a little bit, and that now that I knew he was out there, now I wondered why, like he's a real person. Why isn't he around? Why doesn't he want to be around?
Right.
And anytime that I did go over to his house or hang out with him, he was still doing the stuff that he would have been doing even if I wasn't there. He was in a back room. Found out later that he was actually cooking. So yeah, don't know where else there to go.
So do you feel like it was harder for you after meeting him though? Like in terms of, because you mentioned you envisioned more of a relationship, whereas prior to that, maybe you thought about him, but you didn't really have any expectations, right? Now your expectations change. Like, how was that to deal with?
I don't know that I had time to think and deal with it with everything else going on. And that might go into kind of some of the stuff that Jeff was alluding to and story-wise. It sounds boring. It didn't really change too much other than I didn't have this longing now or this desire to try to figure out. It wasn't a piece in the puzzle to solve any longer.
Gotcha.
I had met him. I kind of got a gauge for his interest at the time. And what I'll do is I'll skip forward ahead many, many years now. And later on, he came to me and apologized a lot. He was like, I'm so sorry I wasn't there during that time. And I'm glad that you've never held it against me, that you don't, that you've forgiven me kind of thing.
How old were you when that happened?
My 30s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
early 30s, I think. Yeah.
And do you guys have a relationship today?
I talk with him today. I text him. I don't get too much back from him. He's still very busy and doing things that he does. And similar with my mom, kind of in the same crowd of people. So I distance myself as much as I can.
Yeah.
He also hasn't been in the best health lately. So I do kind of keep my ear to the ground a little bit. I want to know where he's at in life and kind of what's going on. But aside from that, not too much.
So you kind of had to jump around a little bit in school. You didn't have did you have a consistent place or did you have to move quite frequently?
I had a consistent place for about 2 years one time. That was, yeah. Yeah. This is one of those things that when I tell people like, oh, what school did you go to? I'm like, at what point? Yeah. In
Right.
time, I went to 12 different elementary schools in the Sacramento area, 14 different times. And I remember those two numbers, but I can't remember the chronological order of all of them anymore.
Right.
I just know that it went from like William Land. I went to Nicholas Elementary School in South Sacramento. I went to like Greer Elementary School a couple times, Thomas Edison. I went all over the place. On average, we moved about every 6 to 8 months. And that was because mom was getting kicked out of places for various reasons, or there was a few times where she had to go to jail. So we'd end up going somewhere else and living with people. And for most of that, it was me and my brother. Like I mentioned, my sister was 10 years younger than me, so she came a lot later. So yeah, I was always the new kid. And most times I was one of, if not the only white kids in the entire school. And yeah, it moved a lot. Had to constantly be the new person, had to learn how to make friends, if I could make friends.
Right.
Yeah. Got my butt kicked quite a bit.
Mm.
Yeah. And then after elementary school, went to 2 different junior highs and then 2 high schools. And high school is really where things started to finally settle down for me.
And what did your mom do for work during majority of that time, or was she working?
Wasn't working almost my entire life. I can't remember a time that my mom wasn't on government assistance. So welfare. She was one of those people that constantly talked about, oh, just wait till we get on Section 8. We'll live a lot better. And I do remember her working at Taco Bell for a little while there. And aside from that, it was dealing drugs. It was working with other people, hustling money, things like that.
Do you have a recollection from the first time you realized what your mom was doing for money, like the drug thing?
All right, so I'm going to give my mom a little bit of credit here in that she didn't really try to hide it. And she named it certain things. She would say, yeah, wait, I have to go get goodies. And she would call it goodies. And she actually, to this day, if we talk about, my mom really gives herself a lot of credit, I will say. And she says, like, that's part of why you turned out as well as you did, is I didn't hide that stuff from you. Like, you saw what I was doing. You knew what I was doing. And yeah, so as far as some kind of like, oh, this is what she's doing, I always knew that it wasn't quite right what she was doing, but it was so normal to me that I did not think anything of it at the time.
Right.
I would say once I had a life that I didn't want to fuck up. Sorry, am I allowed to?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. I forgot.
This is not made for kids.
Once I had a life that I didn't want to fuck up is when I started going, oh, wait a second. That's not cool. What's happening over there? And I need to distance that from myself.
That's funny. One of our first episodes was the topic was, at what point do you become responsible for your life? It'd be a very fascinating question for you in this moment, because you're watching your mom do things, and it's your mom, and the chaos has kind of always been around you a little bit. And you probably, at what point do you even know that that's wrong? Because it's just the way things are. Like, if you grow up in it, you're like, can you remember a time consciously going like, man, what I think drugs are bad and what my mom's doing is not good?
I know the exact moment that happened, actually. Okay. And you just helped to put it in, help me recognize it is, so I was 14, 15 years old. And at that point, as a young teenager and in high school and seeing my mom do this, I had smoked weed. I had started drinking with friends and things like that. Didn't really do anything else but those 2 things. And I got a job at a place called Laser Force in Carmichael, California, and started hanging out there quite a lot. And the owner was at that time, like to me, a very respectful person, and probably the closest thing, even now, I consider him a father figure. And I remember sitting in the employee lounge one day and him talking about his high school days where a person offered him weed and offered to sell him some. And he said, just to make a point, I punched the guy right in his face, like straight up, knocked him out, and nobody ever offered me that kind of shit again. And I went, this person that I respect, who's building this business, that's doing this stuff that I would love to try to do something like this, that was his reaction. And that was the day that I stopped smoking weed. And like I said, I was probably 14 years old. So I think that's when I'm like, this is not what good people do. So that was at that moment in time, that was my my kind of epiphany.
Right. But before that, you had certain, I guess, with your mom's lifestyle, some things got kind of brought to your doorstep, so to speak. That probably had to tell you even at a young age that this is a different kind of chaos and this is dangerous and scary. So, what kind of stories stand out in that?
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think back to the earliest one. I don't know if I'd shared this one with you yet or not. I remember of my mom telling me, so here's another kind of, I don't know, funny thing in my childhood. My mom would leave and I would say, how long are you going to be gone? And she would tell me, I'm going to be gone for 4 Sesame Street shows. And so that meant like 2 hours.
That's a good way to put it.
Right. Yeah, something I can put in context. I'm like 5 or 6 years old. I'm in kindergarten right now for this story. And she told me, yeah, but you're gone for like 5 Sesame Street shows. I'm like, okay. She didn't come back for 3 days. And when she came back, the woman that she had staying with me at that point, big woman, let me say that first of all. My mom walked in the door. This woman grabbed my mom by the throat and pushed her into the bedroom. And I heard the door slam and I heard beating and yelling and screaming and all kinds of stuff going on. And I heard her yelling at my mom yelling back, this and that. And after the whole thing was over, my mom piecing the things together and telling the story to her friends and such, in my mind, I'm looking at this going, I didn't understand at the time why this person was doing this to my mom. I was happy to see her. She had just got COVID for 3 fucking days.
Mom's home.
Mom's home. So I realized later that what my mom did was not normal. And what she was doing when she was gone, and I knew even then that's what she was doing, was going to sell drugs, that it could elicit this kind of a reaction from somebody. And piecing it together later that, she never called, said, hey, I'm going to be gone for a little bit longer, nothing. She just disappeared for 3 days. So that's one time where I'm like, something's not quite right here.
Right.
And that was kindergarten.
That was kindergarten. Yeah. Another time where I knew something wasn't quite right is, and this is tough. I remember my mom had a Gran Torino that she drove around, and I remember getting in that Gran Torino, and I remember her giving me a film canister, and I didn't open it, but I know what was in there. And she says, here, put this in your pocket. And she says, if we happen to get pulled over, cops are not going to search you. But if for some reason they do, just tell them that you found this. Tell them that you found it, you didn't know what it was, and you were just playing with it. I'm like, okay, Mom. So something like that too. It's knowing that what was happening was not right. This isn't something that was normal. However, I think maybe to your point, I think I realized all these things later in life. I didn't notice it right in that moment. Yeah, there was some feelings about like something's not cool here, but I didn't know what.
Again, it's your mom and you trust her and you're young and this is
whatever
this is your life. Like how, like you said, like you don't know any different, which is a tough thing.
I do believe there has to be, and I'm sure actually in law enforcement, you guys maybe have a different perspective of this, but I have to believe that as a parent, no matter how fucked up they are, no matter what they do, that there's an element to them that thinks what they're doing is what's best for their kids. Because how can a person ever do something to their kid that they think is messed up? And I'm sure there's exceptions. I'm sure there is, right? But I have to at least think that. And to this day, I do think that my mom thought that what she was doing was what was best, that she was able to do. But now, today, the way my mom is, no, I'm like, no, you need to grow the fuck up. But
I'd be interested in what kind of upbringing she had and what maybe led her to that lifestyle, because I agree. I think most parents, it's in your DNA. Like, how could you not care for something that you created, right? Like a child. And I think optimistically, people do what they think is best given the circumstances they have. That doesn't mean there aren't other choices.
Right.
Those are really difficult at times, depending on your experience, your upbringing, and what she brought to the table as a mother. Have you ever talked to her about how she was brought up, or maybe even what led her to that lifestyle?
haven't had to ask her. She will talk about it at length's end because she constantly plays the victim in that role.
Oh, wow.
It is, this is the way my dad raised me. And to her credit there, this is something her dad, my grandpa, that for the long time, that was the only like male figure that I had in my life aside, like I said, from my mom's boyfriends. He gave me a lot of good lessons in life, good, like actual good lessons. He's the one that taught me, he's like, that's your brother right there. You don't ever snitch on him. You don't ever rat him out. He's going to be your brother for life. Like those kind of things that stuck with me. And then there's times where I remember riding in his car and we get pulled over by the cops. And I'm sitting in the front seat. I'm thinking I'm like 10 years old in this case. And cops pull us over. He rolls his window down and he has a bag of what I'm assuming is crank. And he slides it down the crack of the window, like right where the window's at, slides it in there. And cop comes, talks to him, writes the ticket, does whatever. We drive off. And he rolls the window up and as we're driving, he goes, "Did you see what I did there?" And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Where I slid that down the window." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Now when we get home, I'm going to grab the toolkit. We're going to take door panel off. We're going to get that out."
This is some on-the-job training right here.
It's, right? Yeah. And I said, "Okay." And he looks at me and says, "You're going to need to know this kind of stuff." And I said, "Grandpa, I'm not going to do that when I get older." And he looked right at me and he says, "I do it. Your mom does it. You're going to do it too."
The family business.
The family business. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I'm sure that was the kind of thing with my mom when he was raising her. And my grandmother, my mom's mom, had 4 kids by the time she was 18 with this man. And I want to say by the time my mom must have been 17 or probably 16, 17. He moved out. She went with him instead of staying back with mom. And so he took her into that life and started down that path.
Yeah. So there is some validity there in terms of the lifestyle you're brought up into and how challenging that is to overcome. But clearly people overcome it. You know, I wasn't the same as the family I was brought up in. And it seems like you're not the same either. But yeah, it's always interesting.
I think it is. I love hearing the people that kind of buck the trend of their family. Their family has a vice or their family has a thing. And they're like, you learn from it and you go, I'm going to be different. You know, and I think that's powerful when people.
Yeah, and I don't even know why like it is. Like on one end I can give myself credit, like you probably can, and be like, oh, I knew something, I knew I could be more and I'm just better. You know, or maybe it's in my DNA. I don't know, to not do those things. Like, I don't know. It's interesting though, because clearly we've overcame that.
And you kind of put a lot of onus on the impact that laser tag.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how'd you get started in that journey?
So when we were living in, I'll say kind of a very infamous apartment complex in Carmichael called the Towers. It's right at Fair Oaks and El Camino, 4 stories tall. A lot of no good comes out of the apartments there. We're living there. This laser tag place opens up across the street. And in Carmichael, that was the only place to go at the time. Really even was for a long time. And I just started hanging out there. And it's kind of a funny story too, is what really got me kind of in the door, I will say, like with the employees and the owners there, is my dad, who I kind of had connections with here and there, would make black boxes for cable back in the day.
Hook people up.
Somebody asked me like, "Oh, we heard your dad can make black boxes." I said, "Yep, if you get 2, you give me both, I'll bring it back 1. You get 1, he keeps the other one. That's payment." Nice. So that was kind of how I got in there. I forgot about that. But I started hanging out, and laser tag was fun. I'm a 14-year-old kid. I'm playing this really advanced, tech laser tag place and hanging out, and met my best friend Justin there. And right when I was almost 15, they offered me a job. And I started working there for about, I don't know, maybe a couple months or so. And then my mom got busted and was going to go to prison for a year. And she said, "Hey, you and your brother and sister are going to move to Orangeville with your grandma." And I said, "No, I'm not." And she's like, "Yes, you are." And I went, "You're going to prison." Like, what are you going to do? So I said, "You know what? My dad's dad lives in the same apartments as I do. Didn't really have a great relationship with him or anything either, but I'm like, he'll let me stay there." And for the most part, I did, or I would literally stay at laser tag. The owners gave me a key, let me stay there. I would sleep in the employee lounge, and that's where I got a job. I finished high school. I ended up buying a car and basically lived.
You became a part of a national laser tag team.
Yes, I did. Yeah. So, man, being SWAT, I don't know how much detail I've gone into this with you before, but when people think laser tag, you run in and you're like, laser tag, pew, pew, right? You shoot people and that you unlimited lives and you just keep shooting everywhere. You're just spamming. We played a game that's called Space Marines 5. And it had 5 different positions. We're about to get real nerded out here in laser tag.
There's like some serious tactical training involved in this, I assume.
Yes, there is. There's serious tactical efforts going on in a multi-story arena, and there's some strategy. So you got 5 different positions in there. You have an ammo carrier, a medic carrier, you have a heavy, you got a commander, and a scout. And so
Sounds
you have
legit.
they all have different abilities. So you think laser tag, you get shot, you go down. No. Commander, you got to shoot him 3 times. Or he won't go down. Heavy, you got to shoot 3 times. Heavy, though, shoots you once, you go down. He's the heavy weapons, right? So we would play locally at Laser Force, and we would have competitions for they would last 6 or 8 weeks, playing once a week, and you'd win jackets or whatever it was as the trophy. And we decided one day we're gonna go to some of the other Laser Forces and play those guys. So we went to Utah, and I remember going to Utah. And the guys we walk in, they're like, man, it's so cool to have someone else here. Nobody can beat our team. Like they walk in and we just annihilate them. And we're sitting here going, oh shit, man, like these guys sound like they're really good. And we walked into their arena and played them one time and ended the game in 3 minutes. And the first thing that they say when they came out of the game is they're like, you guys didn't even stick together. And we're like, no, that you split up.
Yeah.
You gotta, it's tactical. So we played there. We went to Sugarland, Texas to play those guys. Went to Vegas, played those guys down Southern California. And eventually people started having a lot of fun and they said, we're actually going to create a national tournament. And so they put a national tournament together. Our team went to the national tournament, which was in Sugarland, and we won that tournament. And then the guys over in Australia who invented this game heard that we were doing good, and they decided, well, we need to go over and play these guys. So they created now an international competition, Space Marines 5, and those Australians, man, they come over and wipe the floor with people quite often. But
now, does this still exist, or is this?
It is this month, I believe.
Oh, shoot.
I believe, yeah. In
this is current.
Syracuse, New York, I think is the Laser Tag International Tournament this year.
And how old were you when you were doing this?
I was from the age of 15 till I was probably 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty
First
cool.
time I was ever on an airplane was traveling to Texas to play laser tag.
A life-changing
event.
game.
Yeah.
A life-changing game. One of the other things that was interesting is would you rather talk about your time being a magician or being hypnotized? Because I think there's a correlation.
We'll start with magician because it kind of ties into laser tag.
Right.
That's where I started at laser tag is doing magic. So maybe I'm wrong here, but I think every kid, especially boys, when they're, 8, 9, 10, pick up a magic kit and think they're cool, and they do a couple little magic tricks here and there.
Some people do yo-yo stuff, but we'll get to that.
I did magic too. I was watching David Blaine back in the 90s.
Yeah. I did my senior project on David Blaine.
Oh, really?
So
Nice.
I picked it up and I loved it. And let's see. So when I was in junior high, it's probably 12. Yeah, 12 or 13. My aunt takes me to a place called Grand Illusions in Carmichael, which is a magic shop. And I walk in, I talk to the owner, his name's Steve, tell him I'm interested in magic, and he says, do you know how to read? Yeah, kind of joking. Yeah, of course I know how to read. And he's like, so here's the deal. You can spend 10, 15, 30, 40 bucks buying 1, 2, or 3 magic tricks. Or, and he brings out a book that's about this thick and about this big called Mark Wilson's Complete Course in Magic. And he says, read this book cover to cover and then come back to me. And that's what I did. At 12 or 13 years old, I read that book, and it starts off with cards, coin sleights, and then it moves on to some props, and then it goes on to stage magic and all of this. So just fell in love with it, and then started working at laser tag. And my first couple weeks on the job, I'm marshalling games. I'm walking around in the arena, making sure people don't run, jump, or climb and crap like that.
Pistol whip and
Pistol
all
whip
the things.
them, yeah. No. So then I go up to the owners. Actually, they asked me to start doing birthday parties. That was the money maker at laser tag. from Friday to Sunday, they were doing 25, 30 birthday parties. That was big money makers. And I started doing birthday parties as the party coach. And I went to the owners and I said, would you guys care if I started doing magic in the parties? No. So I started doing magic. And from the day I started doing magic, I mean, back then in 96, 97, I was getting $20 tips from the people, doing the birthday parties, the parents, and having a lot of fun. And I think that's what doing magic. And then later on in life, I became a door-to-door sales rep for part of my career, really made it so that I'm not scared to approach people and have a conversation, which, I mean, when you look like a lot of kids, especially, and even young adults these days, that skill doesn't really exist.
Such a valuable skill to have, being able to just approach people without any sort of like script or anything and just figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, I think with you having to jump from school to school, it helped with that. Obviously, that probably played a big role, and you're just like, well, I'm comfortable. You start getting more and more comfortable going and approaching people that you don't know because you walked into so many situations as a kid, not knowing anybody. You worked for a while as a car salesman, which kind of helped you.
Yeah. Well, it's the same way though as him though. Like I started working when I was 15 years old and got a job at that landscape yard driving heavy equipment tractors, and was fortunate to get that job because it gave me an outlet and a way to make money for myself and buy my first car and learn things. But yeah, you had to learn how to, I didn't learn so much people skills in that job because I was in a tractor loading rocks and stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, my first job becoming a car salesman, I think that paved the way for my law enforcement career because I joke about it. And I was like, what are the two professions that when that employee person first approaches you, nobody wants to really talk to them? It's a salesman and a cop.
Yeah.
Like no matter what, like they're walking up to you, you feel uneasy and you don't want to really talk to them. It's those two things. And yeah, being a car salesman definitely helped me approach people in law enforcement and be like, I'm okay with you not wanting to talk to me. I'm still going to stay here and talk to you.
Right.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot of tactics, especially as a magician and my friend, well, he became my friend, the owner of that magic store, Steve. Mm-hmm. He ended up years later officiating my wedding. Became real good friends with him.
Nice.
And he would teach me and mentor me different ways to actually approach people. And one of the ways that I still love, and I use it in meetings and things like that today, is the curiosity approach, where they actually ask you to come talk to them. And so in magic, one way that I would do that is I would start with rubber band magic, and I would have a bunch of rubber bands on my wrist. And if I had to approach like a group of people and they're talking or eating or something, that's a awkward position to come in and be like, can I show you magic? Mm-hmm. So you'd walk up and you'd just start handing them rubber bands, and you'd start to walk away and they would look at you like, wait, what? I'm like, they didn't tell you what that was for? No. Oh, well, let me show you. Right? And then you come in. They just like invited you.
Right.
So
that's cool.
That's something that stuck with me, especially if you're in an awkward situation where the person likely isn't going to want you to interrupt them, being able to come in and have them ask you to interrupt them.
I wonder if there's any like well-known magicians that are cops out there in the world. If you are out there and you're a cop and a magician, I'd be really interested to see what those interactions look like. I feel like that could be a great like icebreaker and just like way to connect.
That Key and Peele skit, the magic cop, he starts pulling.
Maybe not. Yeah, maybe not that, but like, yeah, that'd be interesting though. Like, I think when I look back at my law enforcement career, that'd be kind of a cool thing to do, like to de-escalate some things, to start showing some magic. Like, who doesn't like magic, right?
Well, like I alluded to earlier, you used to perform like in a yo-yo, like you used to do yo-yo, right?
Yeah. I was a yo-yo master, yo-yo master, if you will. I don't know if any 90s kids are out there from Arizona, but if you remember a guy named Johan, he was like the guy everybody looked up to, using the Bumblebee, the Silver Bullet, the Duncan yo-yos. And that was a good time. I tried magic for a little while. I think I didn't have the discipline that you did to read a book from cover to cover. And so I never, once I started reading things, I just got kind of lost. That just sounds complicated. I want the simple magic. Yo-yos was easier. It was like I could watch a little video and like just see the string movements and stuff. And yeah, I had a good time with that though. My mark of fame was performing for the School of the Deaf and Blind.
Naturally.
Yo-yos, it was the weirdest.
I love this story.
It was the weirdest thing. Like, it was a random weekday too, and my uncle, who had a long history of drug use, and so maybe that made him more of an interesting person at the time. He must have been like in his 30s at the time, but he was also a yo-yo master and my mentor for yo-yoing. But I just remember one day, like, he's like, "You're not going to school today." And I'm like, "What are we doing?" And he's like, "We're going to go, there's a group of people we're going to perform some yo-yo tricks for. Like, it's pretty cool." And I don't remember how old I was. Maybe I was like maybe 10. And I just remember driving, and like, I remember pulling into the big complex in Arizona, and we go inside, and he's like, "Okay," people gathered around, a bunch of kids, like around the same age as us, maybe middle school age. And we started doing yo-yoing and tricks. And like, I quickly realized like some kids weren't looking at me. And then some kids were making a lot of noise. And I was just a little bit confused, but I'm just busting out some cool yo-yo tricks. I didn't really know anything about it. And then like later, like, I don't know when my uncle started doing his stuff, I started looking at some signage, and it said the School of Deaf and Blind. And although I was like, this is kind of weird, I think some of these people can't see me doing tricks. But I don't think it really became even that funny until like later in adulthood, when I was like, I literally went and performed yo-yo tricks for deaf and blind kids. But you know what? Those blind kids, they loved it. They were my best fans. I remember this one girl came up and she was looking a little away from me, but she was telling me how cool it was, and I believed it. So anyways.
I'm sitting here imagining you doing your yo-yo tricks and the hand movements that's involved. And typically for people who are deaf, they have the translator off to the side.
Yeah.
And they were probably just doing the same hand movements that you were doing.
Maybe, I don't know. But I mean, at least they could see me though. The blind kids, I don't know. But that thinking back, that had to have been kind of scary, because like those yo-yos spin really fast, and I had metal ones too that like they hum really loud. And some of those tricks, you're like kind of flinging them at people's faces. And I just wonder what that was like, I don't know how to say it, but like perspective wise or sensory.
Yeah.
Like having this humming piece of metal coming at your face when you're blind might have been kind of awkward. Well, weird stuff. But yeah, yo-yo master.
Yo-yo master.
Maybe one day I'll do some tricks on camera for everybody.
I do remember the late 90s and the yo-yo,
the craze, yeah.
craze that peaked again. And we had them at laser tag. Everybody's walking around. I remember a guy coming in with like a belt of yo-yos.
Oh yeah, I had the little holsters. I had the holsters with the you want quick draw. You want a quick
dork.
You would just walk around and like see someone else with a belt, and you would be like, you'd quick draw and start busting out a trick. It was almost like breakdancing battles and stuff, but yo-yos, and you're like, who can do the better tricks? And we had competitions at the local swap meet, and I remember winning all the little certificates and stuff for the yo-yos, like who could do the most like loop-de-loops or like around the world, or I still know all the names of the tricks. I could do the Eiffel Tower. I'd make the Eiffel Tower out of a string. Could do the brain twister or brain teaser, another one. Atom Smasher, another cool string trick. It's legit. I don't know how I ever got away from it.
Nowadays, the strings come off the yo-yos. And they catch them midair.
I saw those come out like maybe like 10, 12 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was my brother-in-law had one, and I was like, that thing looks stupid. Like, I don't know. It just wasn't the OG. Wasn't what I was doing.
I got nothing.
Nothing as cool as yo-yos and magic, huh?
Yeah.
That's funny.
I was that nerd that played football and baseball. I didn't do yo-yos.
Yeah.
Or magic.
Yeah, that's funny.
Around long enough to do those things.
Yeah.
So Steve, Steve, the Magic Store owner, my good friend, he pointed out one day, and it was one of those things that as he said it, I'm like, hey, that's not cool. And then I thought about it and went, oh, it's actually way true. And it was like every magician that started off because they were a little bit of an outcast. They were a nerd. They were something. And I'm like, magic was my way. Every time I went to a new school or something, I had something interesting about me that I could do something. And even through high school, I was known as the Magic Man. Like, as I did my senior project on David Blaine.
Yeah. Do you remember David Blaine, Jeff?
I do. Yes, he could love it.
What was the skits where someone was making fun of David Blaine? It was like on Comedy Central or something.
Those were better than David Blaine's.
Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh, yes.
Who was that?
I don't know who it was. They were great though.
It was like they would walk up to like a group of random like hoodlums in the street, and then he would like do something totally stupid and just stare at the camera.
Yeah. Watch this. Look.
Because you know how David Blaine would always have that look?
Yeah.
It was so awkward.
Yeah.
Too good. Well, so one of the things we like to do on this show is obviously get people's worldviews and perspectives and kind of what's their early experiences and all experiences in life and how it's shaped them. who they are as a person, how they parent, what kind of hobbies they are interested in, all that good stuff. So before we leave talking about, some more of your childhood, because you've had a pretty interesting childhood, we can say at least. And although I don't know all the stories, and that's why we brought you on today, Jeff has alluded to some other interesting stories that maybe you've shared, maybe not even in full, but a little bit with him about, some events that happened and maybe you witnessed as a kid, involving your mom and some different things. And is there anything else story-wise that you think was significant in your life that has maybe shaped, who you are as a person, how you want to raise your kids and that kind of stuff?
Maybe a what not to do.
What not to do.
That's where most of it comes from, is the what nots to do. And yeah, seeing the behaviors and the things that my mom and other people would do. And like I mentioned earlier, not in the moment, not really realizing, being scared or feeling uneasy and things like that. But the gravity of it didn't really set in until much, much later in life. Oftentimes when I'm telling somebody a story or I'm talking, usually to my wife, like, oh yeah. And when I was a kid, I remember like one time this happened and I go into a story and I look over and she's like, and I'm like, what?
To you, it's nothing.
I'm like, yeah, what are you talking about? Like,
your childhood didn't have this?
Yeah. And yeah, we've talked about my wife. She had like the easy childhood life,
Yeah.
Mom, dad together, went to the same 3 schools throughout, So yeah, like one of the things that comes to mind, I did tell Jeff this story, is this was an emotional one for me for like all kinds of different reasons. And my mom and her boyfriend were having a fight. And I'm starting to realize now, like even telling these stories, like why some of this stuff did have impressions on me that I didn't realize. And one of the impressions that it had is when people fight, like my mom screams and yells and knocks things over, and I don't do that. And I think it's because of how much I saw it and how much I didn't like it. So she's in a fight with her boyfriend and she's like, get in the fucking car, we're going. And it's me and my brother and my stepbrother at the time. And we get in the car, and it's again her Grand Torino. It's another Grand Torino, not the same one from before. And we get in the car, and it's hard to picture this, but basically where her car was parked, we're in an apartment complex. The apartment complex, we came from the second story, we walked down, but right as you walk down where her car is parked, there's no building in front of it. You can drive through into like the center of the apartment complex where the grass is, kids would play and stuff like that. And we get in the car and she starts the car, and I see Julian come running down the stairs, and he's got a string of firecrackers in his hand. And
who's Julian?
That's her boyfriend.
Okay.
Yeah, mom's boyfriend. And I see him, and he's got a lighter in his hand, and I see him throw it down. And I find out later in life, he's talking to me when I met up with him. And he's like, I was going to light it and throw it in the car. And then I thought better of it. You kids are in there. My mom, however, did not think better of her actions in this case. Julian gets in front of the car, and she drops it into drive and tries to run his ass over. Jeez. So she floors it. I'm in the passenger seat holding on to the door because I haven't even shut the door yet.
And how old were you right here?
I am 13. I had to think. I was like right in between junior high and high school. So I'm holding the door. I'm not even buckled in. And she's flooring it through this like quad area, across the grass, jumping curbs and all kinds of stuff. Jeez. He's got his hand, if you can imagine, like on the hood of the car like this, running backwards, taunting and laughing at her the whole time. Like, he's running backwards. My brother's in the back of the car yelling, Mom, stop, stop, stop. I'm just holding on to the door for dear life. And as we go through the quad, and he kind of jumps out of the way, and she makes a left turn out of the quad to another parking lot in the apartment complex. And his car is parked there. And his car is a little hatchback Honda Civic hatchback. And she goes, oh, there's his fucking car. And she floors it and smashes the shit out of this car with her Gran Torino.
Well, you guys are all still in the car.
We're all in the car. I'm holding onto the door. And she plows into it. And I turn around, and Julian's just devastated, like seeing his car get smashed. We take off and go to my mom's house. The door doesn't work anymore on this car. It's all bashed in. I finally buckle up. So that's the end of the story. Just one of those things that I'm like, who does that?
You learn how to not fight.
Yes.
Like, you're like, that's not how we argue. And in marriage, you're like, I don't want to be that
Maybe
couple.
control your emotions and not respond.
And here was the most emotional part of that story is, think about it. My mom just tried to run this guy over, smashed the hell out of his car. What's he going to do now? He went back to our house with a baseball bat and broke every fucking thing in our house. Anything that was glass was no longer solid. And that meant anything that was mine, my brother's, my mom's, anything. It was just demolished. And so we get back to the house. I don't know if it was later that day or if it was whenever. And my brother's heart is just like sunk because one, he used my brother's baseball bat to do it, and everything's just broke. And I see this devastation in my brother's eyes, and I'm looking at it going like, well, yeah, this is what happens, right?
Oh.
Yeah. Just another day.
Just another day. And what else would you expect? So, but I remember seeing the impact it had on my brother, and I'm like, this is not, it's not cool. It's not how you do it.
Now, did those moments ever leave you feeling scared for your own safety, though? Like that sort of aggression and hostility around you? You know, were you ever in fear that a mom's boyfriend or someone would come home and hurt you or your mom in those sort of fits of rage?
I remember I was never scared for myself. I think that I always knew my mom's boyfriends well enough to know they wouldn't hurt me. And none of them ever did. There was one boyfriend that was hurting her. And I remember I'm a freshman in high school at this point. I'm not a big kid either. And he, pushed her or punched her or something. And I didn't even see it, but I heard her say, "Don't you ever fucking punch me." And I walked into the kitchen and he looked at me and I opened the front door and I said, "Get the fuck out." And he looked at me and he looked at my mom and he just walked out. So I remember at that moment being scared for my mom. And yeah, that seems weird to say. I never was really scared for myself, but there was times where I was scared for her until there were some other stories that, I've had, guns pointed at me. That was probably the first time in my life where I went, this is really scary now. And yeah, that's probably when things really started to turn that I knew things weren't quite right.
Like what happened in terms to get a gun, have one of the boyfriends point a gun at you?
It wasn't a boyfriend. This was just times where there was a time where we were getting robbed and I didn't know it. I was in my bedroom and I hear rustling and stuff going around. My mom's bedroom was right next to mine. And I walk in because I hear a guy yelling, my mom yelling at some guy. Oh, and I'm remembering now. I'll come back to that. He's yelling at her. I see him with a gun in his hand. I step into the bedroom, like threshold where my mom is, and he looks at me and he says, "Get the fuck back in your bedroom." And I'm going, I need to get the hell out of here. And so I ran to the front door. His buddy is standing at the front door. And he said, "Get back to the bedroom." And he points a gun at me. I'm like, ugh. So I go back to my bedroom. We're on the second story of an apartment complex. And I'm thinking at this point, I need to jump out my window. I need to get out of here. I need to run for help. And it seems like it was 15 minutes in my head, but it was probably 10 seconds. And I hear them leaving. And as soon as that happens, Julian, the boyfriend, comes back into the door. And he's like, "What's going on?" And my mom's like, "They just fucking robbed me." And he runs out and they're gone at that point. I remember my mom at the time telling the story and how they came in to rob her of whatever drugs that she had. And she said she sat on them. She's like, "I just sat on them. They didn't know it was fucking there." That was her, like, get out. But
do you remember law enforcement much coming into the home and interviewing? Were you ever interviewed for anything? And what'd that look like?
No. Never interviewed by law enforcement. Remember them coming to the house several times. The only time I ever directly really dealt with them is when I pulled a fire alarm out of school one time. But yeah, by accident, kind of accident.
Accidentally on purpose?
Yeah, I was like, "Ooh, dare me. And it happened."
Yeah.
And
So did you have any feelings or thoughts towards law enforcement growing up? Growing up in that kind of environment, I could even tell you, like, for my family, like, people were probably more against law enforcement just because of the lifestyle they led, and I'm always curious, like, if you had any sort of thoughts one way or another. I'm always interested if someone, like, grew up, like, feeling like law enforcement are always the enemy based on their environments, only to find out later, oh, it's maybe not that that way. I don't know if that resonates with you or not.
That's-
or
100% the situation. I wouldn't say that I was ever had like bad feelings about them, but I was always, whenever they were mentioned or around, I felt uneasy.
like scared, right?
Scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. They weren't the good guys when I was young. They were, I hesitate to say the bad guys, but they weren't good guys.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was one of those times where we were the family, the mom's driving and she goes, oh shit, there's a cop behind us. And the kids are looking behind and she says, don't look behind. What are you doing? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was the situation. But then back to laser tag. The owners of laser tag were good friends with a lot of police officers.
Mm.
And at that time in my life, which was to me probably the most pivotal moment in my life, was that era at laser tag and the people that I met. I had a ton of respect for police officers. And that was my goal, was to become a police officer. I wanted to be K9 unit. Saw your signs over in the other room there.
Yeah.
And went through post, like started going down that path. And 9/11 happened and there was a hiring freeze at Sac Sheriff. So I got a different job, and many years I kind of looked back and went, I should go do that. But I was making more money doing what I was doing. And I'm like, maybe not.
I wonder how that background would have gone. I mean, most law enforcement, I think stats show they come from chaotic backgrounds, but probably not quite as chaotic as yours, where mom and grandfather were active.
It would
drug
definitely be a
dealers
lot.
currently.
I definitely wouldn't want to be the background investigator because there'd be a lot more questions. You know?
My brother and I, one time we were riding bikes on the horse trail at the American River, and you're not supposed to ride bikes on the horse trail. And we're back there doing jumps and stuff, and park ranger shows up with his truck with the cage on the back of the truck and come on guys, and puts our, bikes in the back of the truck, and we're sitting in the back of the truck, and he's like, what's your guys' names? We're like, Jesse, Jason, Horde. And he goes, sorry, my last name used to be Horde. Maybe you can tell why I've changed it.
Yeah.
And he pulls it up and he goes, you guys related to Bob Horde? We're like, yeah, that's our grandpa. And they're like, and Sherry Horde? That's our mom. Yeah. Robert Milton Horde Jr.? That's our uncle.
Why do you know all my
Yeah.
family? That's not a good sign.
Yeah.
They're notorious in this, and you're like,
Yeah. And one of them goes, like, he's like, Bob Horde? I'm like, yep. And the other guy looks at him and goes, did you know that Bob Horde's mom is Neva Schneider? He's like, no fucking way. Like, they know them all.
You're almost like, you guys know more about my family than I do.
Yeah. Yep.
That's wild. Yeah.
not ideal. But that actually brings up maybe a question I wasn't even prepared for. It's like, you chose to change your last name.
Yeah.
What went into the thought process in that?
I did not want my kids to have the last name Horde.
Because that reputation.
Because of that reputation. Yeah. And I told my wife that when we started dating, I said, if we ever get married, we're changing our name. You're not taking this name. I don't want this name. And even my mom doesn't have this name anymore. She got married and then divorced and kept the new name because she doesn't even want to be a Horde. So yeah. And so the story there too, we picked Hughes because it is Michelle, my wife's Michelle, her grandmother's maiden name. And her last name was Jolly. I wasn't about to be Jason Jolly.
Right.
So
Fair.
yeah.
That'd be
And
fun
she
to
didn't
say.
want me to be Jason Jolly. Her dad's name is Jay. She's like, we're not having two Jay Jollies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so you didn't end up pursuing law enforcement without saying where you work or anything like right now. Like, what profession are you in now? Like, what do you
Now
do?
I am in talent management.
You said what?
Yeah.
Talent?
So talent management.
Okay.
Yeah. I manage two teams that do training and development. So one side of the team that I manage is systems training. And then the other side is more soft skills training, interview skills, resume skills, competencies, things like that.
Okay. That's
lot of-
interesting.
Yeah, it's fun. That's only real recent, past 6 years. Before
And is
that,
it for a company or corporation that you want to mention or talk about, or is it you'd rather keep it private?
It's for the state of California.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Cool.
was private industry before that at a place called Sure West, or I think it's CCI now. And before that, it was a company called Win First.
Okay. Do you think some of your upbringing has played into your skill sets now in doing what you do in any way?
I think, yes, in a roundabout way. So basically being able to go with the flow, not necessarily specifically for the skill sets that I have now. However, I have seen opportunities and taken advantage of those opportunities and been dynamic and been just resilient with things as they come up. Never saw myself going like, this is where I want to go in life. Things have just kind of fallen in place. And I think a lot of it is because of the communication, the connections that I've had, the networking and things like that, that has just opened up opportunities. And then I've taken them, and I'm not scared to jump into something and try something new and, see if it works out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is cool. Your story is just another one in the books of, you don't have to continue the lifestyle or the hand that you were dealt,
right,
so to speak. Because so many people fall into it. That was also one of our first episodes, was talking about taking personal responsibility and victimhood. And unfortunately, life is not fair, and we're not all given the same start in life. But we don't have to stay there. Like, we all have options and choices and things that we can do to set ourselves up for a different trajectory, as you have. And so it's really cool.
Yeah. One of the things I imagine coming from a family like that, from an upbringing similar to that, or there's probably addiction's probably a big component of the lineage. And that's probably passed down. And knowing you have an addictive personality. But one of my favorite stories is how you had to recognize that maybe an addiction could have cost you the life that you had.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of goes to what I was just saying about, noticing opportunities and taking it. And I was not even dating Michelle at the time. Just, she was this girl that I would like to date at the time.
She was a little out of your league.
She was way out of my league. Yeah, I was, for many reasons. I don't know what the heck happened.
Yeah.
So there was a game, it was a computer game called Asheron's Call that me and all my friends were into. And I'm talking, like World of Warcraft, I think was the next big one after that. Hours. We would spend hours playing this game on headsets, talking to all over the country even. I still have people that I've never met face to face, but I met through Asheron's Call that I still talk to. So
it's awesome.
I am playing this game one day. I'm sitting in my best friend Justin's room playing it, and Michelle is sitting just in a seat next to me, watching me the whole time. I'm like, just playing this game. And a good friend of mine, Bob, who is also friends with Michelle, I'm out with Bob one day, and Bob just flat out goes, do you like Michelle? I'm like, yeah. He's like, are you hoping to date her? Like, you hoping to get together with her? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, then you better stop fucking playing Asheron's Call. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, it did not even occur to me. And then it sunk in. I went, oh shit. Like, I sat there and probably played for like 4 hours, and she probably came over to hang out with me. Right. And I went, that can't happen again. And from then on, when she was around, that game did not come on. So
kudos to your friend. Yeah.
Kudos for the shout out. But it's like, I think it's a podcast we'll have to do it. Like the small moments that have like a profound impact on life. And it's not maybe a small moment, but it turned out to be a huge moment to,
that could have been, you could have been one game away from her being like, fuck this guy. He's always playing his video games when I'm coming over to hang out with him.
It was absolutely that case. And
does she tell you that now? Like, to this day, she's like,
I said one more game.
I've been out.
Like, that was the last one.
And that is scary to think about, especially considering what I have now. And I attribute, I've told Jeff this a lot, that I think it very easily could have gone the other way for me. I very easily could have went into the other life. Had it not been, I'll give myself a little bit of credit here, had it not been for me recognizing certain moments. And those moments happen in everybody's life. Right. It's just a matter of if you can recognize it and take action on it or not. I very easily could have been like, oh, okay, whatever, Bob, we'll see you on Asheron's Call tomorrow. But I didn't recognize it and take action.
Yeah, that's the importance and the power of just like decision making.
What do you want your life to be? What do you want your life to be? And notice that there's moments that you're like, we're at I don't want to say a crossroads, but you're like, okay, I can either do this or this. And I talk about that with parenting. And it's like, I try to recognize those moments with my kids. It's like, I want to make sure that when those moments hit, we parent and get that moment right, because I don't want him to go to this path. I want him to go on this path. And for whatever control we have, we just want to make sure we hit those moments right. And so kudos to your friend.
Yeah.
Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
Kudos
Well
for you
done.
for listening too.
Yeah.
Because you could have easily been one of those people that are like, well, if she really likes me, she'll accept my game playing, you know? And because how many times do we see that too, right?
Nope.
Yeah, right. I'm like, God, that sounds really pathetic. Yeah, but I'm sure it happens.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Some people are very stubborn,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but then they end up lonely and sorry and they wonder why.
But I'm sure they're a level 475 paladin or something.
They're probably amazing at whatever they do. 100%. They're fucking amazing at something.
So kudos to Bob. Now you're married, 4 boys.
4 boys.
And you're raising as dad with never really having a father figure. What guidance did you have to take and kind of lead a family with, I guess, without the example or an example of what not to do?
A lot of examples of what not to do. A lot of the, Steve Johnson and Brian, the owner of Laser Tag, that kind of showed me how to be. And I'm just going to say too, a lot of it came from, we had a manager that worked with Michelle at Tricks Gymnastics. My wife worked at Tricks Gymnastics, and there was a husband and wife that had 3 kids that we were watching them really closely and liked the way they parented. And we couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was, but when they would speak to their kids, it was a lot different than how we saw most parents speaking to their kids. And we just started asking them questions, especially once Michelle got pregnant. And what a lot of this came to was this school in Roseville called Roseville Community Preschool that I'll stand on a soapbox and talk about all day. Jeff knows I've volunteered for these guys for 12 years now. And really the woman that started it, her name was Bev Boss, helped me and helps parents understand what is developmentally right for children. And in addition to seeing how not to talk to people, how not to be angry and scream and yell and things like that, it also kind of fit in with what we were learning at all the parent meetings at Roseville Community Preschool about how to talk to kids. So I attribute a lot of my parenting style to that. Yeah.
What would you call your parenting style? How would you describe it?
That's a great question. I don't know. Let me think about that for a second. How would I describe it? I would describe it as, there's a saying, are you the sage on the stage or the guide on the side? And I would say I'm probably the guide on the side. I live by a couple, different mottos. One of them is kids learn to make decisions by making decisions, not by being told what to do. No. You have to be able to sit there and let a child make a decision knowing full well this is a stupid decision. This is going to be very bad. And it takes a lot, I think, courage, and also just sitting back and going, all right, let's see how that works for you. And then coming back and not being the like, yeah, here's why that wasn't going to work. Told you so, right? It's like, what'd you learn from that? And what I have also learned is that when you ask, what did you learn from that? Sometimes what they learned, you will also learn something, through them. Something maybe you didn't think about.
Do you have an example of that? To put you on the spot.
To put me really on the spot. An example of that. Yeah, I'll say recently. Yeah, it's okay. I'm going to talk about this. So my oldest son, he's driving now. He got a car and he got in a little fender bender. I don't know if you know this or not.
I don't.
Yeah, got in a little fender bender. He was driving. He had Carson, my second son, in the car. And they're driving in the fast lane. Something happened. People up front were slowing down, came to a quick stop. He tried to stop. He said he was braking the whole time and then just misjudged it and just tapped this person's bumper, like a tiny little tap, but enough to make the guy pull over. Let's look. And this person had just gotten back from Tahoe from snowing, and it was snowing, obviously. Sorry, Tahoe, not obviously, maybe, but cars just covered in dirt and snow and stuff. And you couldn't see. It was like a newer Mercedes. And you can see a little scuff mark basically in the dirt of where my son's bumper touched it. And my son's like, well, let's wipe it off and see if it's damaged. The guy's like, no. I don't want to scratch it more, So they took pictures and they, did the thing they're supposed to. And I talked to the guy on the phone and all that. Jumping up quite a bit ahead, he never filed any. He didn't care.
Right.
There was actually no damage to his car
Right.
whatsoever. But I'm talking with my son, and I always told him that if you get in a car accident or if you have points on your record, now you're going to pay for your insurance, et cetera, et cetera. So he was working out with this guy whether or not he's just going to pay out of pocket for fixing this guy's bumper. And it was going to end up costing like $2,000 or something. And I'm like, here I am as a father now, talk about the guide on the side. I could pay for this for him, and it would not make a big dent in my life whatsoever. I can totally help my kid out here, but I wasn't going to.
But don't, yeah.
And it was really tough for me to watch him struggle so hard because this kid's been working, saving his money, just bought this car, paid for half the car, I paid for the other half, and now he's going to be faced with paying and like probably wiping out the money that he's earned for this thing. And I'm sitting here going, I know what the advice I would be giving him. It's like, oh, you should have been, distancing yourself and this and that. And I was like, well, what's going on? He's like almost in tears. And I'm like, what did you learn from this? And he said, what I learned or what I'm learning is that one stupid mistake can just wipe out everything that you've earned. And I was like, yes, it can.
Sure can.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's good to capitalize on those moments and heed that lesson. For sure. For sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've used for different things with my children. It's like how you conduct yourself when you're angry, maybe getting back to your mom. It's like, how do you conduct yourself when you're angry can drastically impact your life, your successes or failures. You can go off the handle if something bad happens at work and get fired and all these, or you can learn to take a deep breath, manage your frustration, and move forward. But
yeah, and learning accountability is really great because how easy could it have been for him to be one of those kids that we've seen it bump somebody, back up and split,
right,
hit and run.
I mean,
and it turns into so much worse for that person because we end up finding them.
Yeah.
And then it's like, dude, if you would have gotten like a basic ticket for probably a couple $100,
right,
now you have a misdemeanor on your record, plus, like.
Yeah. And I'm disappointed in him. He drives race cars. So
yeah,
he got to be better than that.
The skill set.
I thought the same thing. I'm like, how did you not stop? Yeah, he's like, I was stopping. It just towards the end, I didn't stop enough.
He's used to drafting people.
You know what? He actually said, he says, I'm used to driving go-karts. And in a go-kart, you slam on the brakes, you spin out.
Right.
So he was like, I was easing into it.
Right.
Yeah, don't do that with ABS. Just slam the brakes. You're good.
I don't know if his has ABS, but yeah. He's got an 03 Miata.
Yeah.
He went from a go-kart to a go-car.
Nice. A Miata, yeah, I would call that a go-kart.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's fascinating also, you as a father, like you have 4 boys and they're kind of into completely different things. And your personality, you kind of go all into all the things that they're involved in. So you have your oldest, he's racing a sprint cars or go-karts. Go-karts. Your younger one's into baseball and Pokemon. And your third is like an outstanding bowler.
Yeah.
And your fourth is an outstanding bowler. They're both like throwing in 200 plus games on the regular and they're like this big.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's fun too. And that's so back to parenting style. That's something that they talk about parents like living vicariously through their kids and the things that they never got to do. Well, I don't really know what I didn't get to do. I didn't get to do anything really. So I got into magic and, yo-yos at the time too. But so
you guys have that, that connection, that yo-yo connection.
You have to set up a
I know
competition
like one
soon.
cool trick and I do that. I've joked that I know more than the average amount. I know more than the average person on a lot of things. Yeah. I can do yo-yo tricks. I can.
It's supposed to be a single mom thing. Like, I don't know.
So as far as parenting and the kid, that's something that I really do hold true and is push their passion. And my son Grant, from the time he was 3 years old, has had a passion for racing. And it really just came from my wife's father, my father-in-law, started watching NASCAR, and my 3-year-old son at the time watched it and something happened. And we had a couple videos online go viral where he was interviewed by Fox 40 and NASCAR and Ellen DeGeneres, and they flew us to Daytona to go watch the Daytona 500. So early on, I'm like, this kid loves racing. We're gonna push whatever he wants to do.
So the most expensive of all activities.
Of everything, yeah. Like, I'm not rich.
That's a lot of money.
So he jumps into a quarter midget go-kart when he's 5 and takes like 3 practice sessions in on the same day. And the coach looks and goes, he doesn't even need me to tell him where the lines are. He knows what he's doing. He can do this. And so we have a chat with him after like 2 or 3 weeks of going to this practice session. And we're like, do you want to race? Like, we'll buy a cart and we'll start doing this. And at 5 years old, he looks at us and he goes, I don't really want to race. I just like to practice. And we went, well, then we're not buying a cart and buying a trailer and spending, $5, $6, $7, $10,000 for you just to have fun.
Right.
So we didn't. And he still continued to love NASCAR and then got into other motorsports and started looking at cars. And he and I go to NASCAR in Sonoma every single year in camp. And about 3 years ago, there's a charity event going on where he can, $350, he can get into a go-kart and he can race. And there was going to be some NASCAR drivers that came and race against him. And he jumped in it, did one practice and jumped out and said, I want one of these. And that sent us down this racing path now. Yeah. And it's been fun.
And he's currently racing now?
He races now. I have somehow become the president of Blue Max Go-Kart, Blue Max Kart Club out in Davis.
Nice.
He races there. He races sometimes at Prairie City. And we're probably going to go to Reno and Lodi here this year as well.
Very cool.
But pushing their passion. Carson loves baseball.
Baseball, and then you were the president. You did the umpiring for all that, the crazy baseball that happens, and then now you're a family of bowlers, and
it's so. I don't know how we got here. It's so crazy. Yeah, our youngest Lincoln decided he wanted to bowl a lot, and so we signed up for kids bowl free during the summer.
Right.
And we started going once a week, and we're there every week, and kids are getting kind of good, and then we hear about the youth league, and really it was almost a financial decision because we're like, we're spending $20, $30, $40 a week bowling. But if you guys join that league over there, it's $13 a week, and then we can bowl anytime we want for 50 cents a game. Right. And so we're like, hey Grant, hey Davis, you guys want to join bowling league? And they're like, oh, sure.
Yeah.
And now Davis, it's the best thing in the entire world for him.
Yeah.
He's 11 years old, and he just bowled. His 2 highest games now are a 278 and a 269. He was 1 frame away from a perfect game twice.
That's pretty cool.
All 80 pounds of them.
If that. And he's throwing a 14-pound ball.
Wow.
At that size, yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, but it's nice to watch you getting involved in all their things and helping them achieve the life that I think we all want for our kids.
I'll say, so one of the more obscure things that I've gotten into, and you mentioned it a second ago, is Pokemon as well.
Yeah.
And again, push their passion. And it's a card game. It's Pokemon. But at the same time, it actually does require some skill. It requires some logical thinking. It's better than video games in my mind. So Davis and Carson, my 2 middles, got into it. And I'm taking them there to the Monday night Pokemon tournaments, sitting in the corner, working on my laptop. And one day it dawns on me, and I'm like, why am I not just over there with them playing? And so I bought a deck, started playing, and now I can speak their language. I know what's going on. I can play with them. And that first year, it led us to going to the Sacramento Regional Pokemon Championship.
I'm surprised that's still a thing because I remember Pokemon coming out a little after the yo-yos.
Yep.
I had the Charizard in the clear container and
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It's gotten more popular now. It's actually stupid how much.
I never understood the game though.
Yeah,
I know there was like,
you play Magic?
I didn't jump into it. I was busy with the yo-yos and I was like, yeah,
this is dumb. Yo-yos are the future. Yo-yos are cool.
Yeah, I just remember having a Charizard card because like my grandparents, they sold like yo-yos and that kind of stuff. And then when the yo-yos were phasing out, Pokemon came and remember Pogs?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Pogs and all that. Like we sold all that stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
So for kids, what's the biggest jump for people that are like young fathers, young parents? They're like, okay, we we got one. Now what's the biggest jump?
I have a very detailed answer for this.
Okay.
It's not straightforward. They're all a jump for different reasons.
Right.
The number one is a big jump mentally, because you go from you being the most important person in the world, you got to take care of yourself, to now you have a spouse and you have two people taking care of. But then that's still an adult. Once you have one kid, it's like, no, now this thing here is the most important thing in the entire world. All your time, all your dedication goes to that thing, that new person that you're responsible for, that depends on you entirely. And that's a big jump. It's a big change in life. Going from 1 to 2 out of all of them, and I've got 4, like you said, I think is the hardest. It's the hardest jump for a different reason. And it's because now this thing, this son that I have, that was the most important thing in the world to me, and I would give all my time to, now I can't. Because now I have this other son that he also needs me. And so I have to say no to the first son or the second son. It's like, I can't be with you. I have to help this one right now. So splitting your time, your love, your dedication to 2 things was harder for me than just the one. And then number 3 was the financial change. Now it's a new car. You got to have that third row. And number 4 was probably the easiest. Like, it's just another one.
Yeah, we already got the bigger car.
Mm-hmm.
We already can't find anybody to babysit.
What's one more?
Yeah. There's nobody to babysit 3, let alone 4. So we're not doing things.
What's the total spread from your kids? Youngest,
10
oldest?
years.
10 years?
Yeah. The biggest
That's
gap is between 3 to 4. We have a 5-year gap between the last 2.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, we had some friends on a couple episodes ago, and they were saying like navigating the different phases of each child, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a 6-year-old is very different than, because they had like a 6, 12, something else, and a 19-year-old. And it was like navigating all those different phases of their lives are so different, what phase they're in.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What would you say? How do you differ? How are you a different father for your first versus for your fourth?
The fourth gets anything, man. He runs the house. Back to the change in life is when it was just one, man, I could come home, give all my time and dedication to that one. And so that was my mentality, is how can I spend time with my son? How can we have fun? What's he doing new today? Because that's something else. Is when he was born, I was working a job and I had a business. And so I was working 12, 13 hours every day minimum. And it got to a point where I'd come home and I swore he had aged 6 months in the time that I was gone. So, but the difference between number 1 and 4 is being able to spend all the time. And now number 4, he wants to keep up with everybody and everything that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
He acts way older than what he is. And he'll come up to me and like, I was working at home today, Daddy, will you play this game with me? And I have to be like, no, I can't. I'm working right now, or I'm doing this. And so he had to learn to be more self-sufficient at times, rather than the first one where you can spend all your time with him.
Right.
But how we parent them, number 1, Grant, he didn't get to watch TV until after like 1 year old. He didn't get to look at a TV.
Right. The rules kind of, I think the rules go a little bit by the wayside.
Yeah, you're like, is this really that important?
Yeah, you're just in survival mode.
That was really hard to enforce. So do we really need to do that for the next one?
Yeah.
He didn't have sugar forever.
Because you're paranoid with the first one.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. You don't know what you don't know.
Number 4, we literally would say, 4th kid. Just, want to watch TV? Go for it.
Go.
Well, it's kind of nice because they have siblings to kind of learn from too.
Yeah.
Right? So that kind of is helpful in a way. Could be detrimental too,
if
depending on what behavior they're modeling in that phase of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
does that have, I think that probably adds a little bit more pressure, because if you have one child who's presenting a bad example, it's even more important to try to remedy that, because you don't want the others following suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they all have very different personalities. And we start to see, especially with the 4th one, how he's taking on different traits. You pointed out to us I don't know if I've ever actually thanked you for this. You want to talk about pivotal moments in life, about something that somebody said or did that really had a great impact on you, and you may not even realize that you said it, is he made a comment about Davis, and you have several times, like, he's just the happiest kid, man. He smiles all the time. Everything is fun to him. And you had said that to me, you had said that to Michelle, and one day we're talking and we're like, how come we don't see that? Like, we see it, but we also see the other side of the stuff. And what other people see in our kids, we don't see that sometimes. And so now we have taken the time to appreciate those things and laugh at Davis when he's doing something just off the way. You're like, what? You're being Davis. Okay, this is great. You love life and everything is great. And that's fantastic. And I hope you never change.
Yeah, sometimes it's helpful to get perspective from other families and people about your kids.
Oh, 100%.
To kind of give you some perspective of life, because it's easy to get irritated with your own kids, right? Because you see them day in and day out and you focus on those things, because as human nature, we focus on the things that we don't like.
Yeah.
So it is helpful when you get a friend or an associate that can point out some really good things your kids are doing and just kind of reset you a little bit. Like, okay.
Totally. Because I think you said it very well. It's like, I will focus on the things that need improvement. Just like as a coach, like, we need to get better at this. We need to get better at this. Hey, you need to get better at this.
Yeah.
And then you have other parents or teachers or whatever come up and like, your kid's awesome. And you're like, pfft.
But then it almost makes you feel bad because you're like,
yeah, you don't have to lie to me. I know
I've been really negative lately, hating everything about what they're doing. Yeah. And you get these great compliments for someone, and then you kind of feel like, oh shit, I'm a bad parent, focusing on the bad stuff. Yeah.
There's a great phrase that I've learned at work from my boss, who retired, but he would have this phrase that whatever works at work is right at home at home. And being in talent management, development, one of the things that I learned is Gallup and Strengths Finders.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a good video and tutorial, but the basics of it is they show you like a report card.
Yeah.
And it's like mostly A's and B's, but then there's a C- in math. And they say, what do you think of with this report card, and what needs the most attention? And most people go, that C- in math.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was mostly B's actually. And there was like one A, and it said like football or PE or something like that. And the comeback was, no, if this was your kid's report card, you get them a football coach. You don't get them a math tutor, because they're really good at football or PE or whatever that is. And if you focus on the strength, the thing that they're good at, and you really encourage that, they're going to go much further in life than if you focus on the negative part. You can pay money, you can get coaches, you can get whatever it is, and they might get a little bit better.
Right.
Yeah, that's such a good lesson. And I actually did the Strengths Finder 2.0 book probably 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember reading all that, and it's so contrary to human nature, though, because like I said a minute ago, we always focus on the weaknesses and the negatives, and that takes all of our energy. Where in reality, it's like, if you're really not just naturally good at something, how much better can you really get?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I think John Maxwell talks a lot about that if you've read his books.
Yep.
And he tells a story about like coaching a basketball team. And, you could take someone who is naturally really big and tall, and they would be a great center. Well, their weakness is probably shooting 3-pointers. So do you sit there and take that really tall, big, athletic body and say, you really need to focus on your weaknesses? You can't shoot threes very well. Or do you say, you're a freaking monster in the paint, you're big, you dominate right up against the glass, focus on that. And when you put in that perspective, you're like, well, why do we always focus on our weaknesses? It makes sense. Like, you're really good at that. How about you just keep pouring energy into that and being the very best? Because you're not going to get better. And a point guard, you need to get better at, fighting in the paint. Yeah, it's probably true. But if you are Steph Curry, why not just excel at that?
Right.
Because you could focus all day on driving in and laying it up. How much better are you going to get against these giants that's their strength?
Well, with our current education system, they'd be like, hey, you're really good at basketball already. You need to focus on being better at hockey. And you're like, why the fuck would LeBron James spend time working on becoming a better hockey player?
Right.
He's clearly a basketball player and he's really good at it. So let's focus on being good at your strengths and finding what your strengths are and just maximizing that.
Yeah.
Because ultimately in life, that's what you get paid for. You get paid for doing what you excel at, not what you struggle at.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a firm believer in that. If anybody who's a parent out there, if you can find your kids what they're good at, lean into that. Lean into that and just push them there. You know, obviously you want to have them acknowledge and be aware of their weaknesses. Like you should always acknowledge it.
And you can spend a little bit of time trying to be like, okay, I'm not good at this. Maybe I can get a little bit better. But
yeah, there's some self-discovery there where you might be like, well, maybe you're not good at it for a totally different reason. Maybe it's not a natural talent thing. Maybe you've never done it and you're inexperienced. There's many things that you can explore, but hone in on those things that you're really good at and just focus the time there.
And that goes back to how I was saying my parenting is feed their passion. Well, you know, typically a person, especially kids, are going to probably intrinsically know what their passion is. And if you feed that passion, they will more than likely be more successful than if you try to push something that they're not as good at or they're struggling in. And to your point, there's a certain level where you have to be good enough at something. Like an F is not acceptable in math. You got to get to that C.
Sure.
If
there's a baseline.
There's a baseline. Yep.
Yeah. Now, is there any ways you and your wife, Michelle, right?
Michelle.
Is there anything that you guys try to be intentional with modeling that?
Yeah. Talking about intrinsic motivation is really the way that when we talk to our kids, the way that we parent, and man, it is so hard. I'm just like, it's thinking about it right now. It takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, and it's the slow road. But it's here. I'll say it this way: one of the things that we don't do is we don't say "good job" to our kids. And I know that sounds weird, but
yeah, it's one of the things that you and I talked about, and it's like it kind of dumbfounded me. But I'm like, yeah, please share.
Yeah. So especially you're a coach,
right.
And a coach is a good time where you want to say "good job" because when you say "good job," what I believe you're telling that person, that kid to do is the thing that you just did, do it just like that all the time, do it every time.
And not only that, the other people that are watching, that's how I want it done.
That's how I want it. Model this. That's a good job right there. And going back to the preschool that I talked about, there was a story of this, preschool girl who painted a flower. And grandma walked by and was like, "Oh, I love flowers. Good job." That little girl painted flowers for the rest of the year. That's all she would do. And it's because that extrinsic motivation that like, oh, this is what they like. This is what they want me to do.
Right.
So that's what I'm going to do. So instead of saying "good job," I'll use a very simple example as a 4 or 5 year old draws something and goes, "Hey, Dad, look at this." I look at it and go, "I see it. That looks like you spent a lot of time drawing that. Can you tell me about it?" Things like that, trying to get what it meant to them. So not just "oh, I approve of what you did," not that "good job."
How do you balance that though with, I just think if I were to employ that, I'm like, I definitely am negative in some ways. Like I definitely tell my kids when they don't do a good job.
Mm-hmm.
So do you find that there has to be a balance though? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's always a balance, and it depends on the age of the kid too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this, like I said, the parenting style is that those real young preschool years and things. But even with, I'll use Davis as an example because
go with how old he is.
Yeah, Davis, he's 11 now, and bowling. So he loves bowling. I wish I could show you a picture. I can later of his bowling style. Is very unique.
Mm.
Yeah, he's a two-handed bowler.
Just throws it like that, like a fireball, like from a what is it? Street Fighter. Like
He runs at kids like 80 pounds, if that.
Yeah.
And hucks this 14-pound ball with all his might and is really good. If you were to record it and take a still frame, he's in the air as he's throwing this ball. He jumps and chucks it. And coach has talked to us and said, in order for him to get really good and actually consistent, he's going to have to stop jumping. And I'm also, so we talk about Strengths Finder. Competition's one of mine. It's down there. It's number 5, but it's still in there. I always wanted to be the best, do the best, have my kids be the best. And there's this element of if I'm not, then I failed. And I really try not to let that pass on to my kids. That's the negative side of the strength, if you will. There's the positive side, of course. But I have to take a step back and ask the questions to him, be very inquisitive. It's like, how do you feel about your bowling right now? How did you do today? How did you feel about how you did? And there's times where he's like, "It was fine. I had fun." Okay. And then there's times where he's like, I couldn't do anything today. Like, why not? How come you don't think that you could, hit the strikes today? I don't know. It was the lane and the oil and this and that. And I may try to walk it through a little bit and say, do you think that you're being accurate, with your approach? And that'll lead into those conversations. Well, I probably shouldn't be jumping or whatever that looks like. But that's what I meant by it's the longer road. Because I'll give an example. Again, going back to preschool, the director at the time, Michael Lehman, there was a parent. It's a co-op. You have to be there one day when your kids are there. And there was a parent that was a science teacher. And the kids are playing on the sandhill, and they made this just massive sandhill, and they've got the hose going, and they're piling up this big pool of water in the sand. And eventually it broke and it starts running down the sandhill. And the kids looked at it, and one of them said, "Whoa, water's more powerful than sand." And you can see in this teacher's eyes, he wanted to step in and go, "Oh, this is called erosion. That's what happened. This is how." And Michael Lehman, who's holding a shovel at the time, the guy stepped forward. He just shoved the shovel in front of him. He goes, "Don't." Just stopped the guy. Yeah. And they talk a lot about, at the preschool, they talk about how kids may not have the words to describe what it is that they're seeing and touching and feeling, but they understand it. Mm-hmm. And if you were to sit and try to have a conversation with them about erosion in that moment, it's going to go right over their head as a 5-year-old. But later on in life, when they learn about erosion, they're going to go, "Oh, I remember that from preschool, and the water and the sand."
You run long enough, it's going to have that issue. Yeah.
So I try to remember that. And in my parenting approach, I don't always have to be the person to inject the knowledge right now, because they may not be ready for it. And when they're ready for it, it's going to sink in. It's going to resonate more. It's going to mean more to them. I don't always have to be back to, that sage on the stage. I don't have to be the one to tell them everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You're right. I think, I said it last episode, like self-knowledge is so much more powerful than just giving someone the answer and telling them from your experience what it is. I gave the analogy of when I was a kid, like someone could tell me what pain is, but my experience of pain, the first time I really felt pain was touching a really hot stove. Mm-hmm. My mom could say, "Don't touch that, it'll hurt you." That's very different knowledge than me touching it, getting a blister on my hand, crying for an hour, 3 days later, skateboarding, falling and busting this blister open and just feeling that pain. For the rest of my life, I have self-knowledge of what pain is. Yep. It would have been easy, you know what I mean? But like, it just proves your point, like self-knowledge. And I think, like you said, questions are really important. It's harder because it's slow. I think anybody who's ever like taught anything or been an instructor, like you learn over time though. It's better when people learn things for themselves, like that self-discovery.
Maybe for my ignorance, like we went to that Men of Movement retreat, and I didn't know what the hell they were talking about most of the time. They were like, "Okay, take the feeling of this, and what is this saying to you?" And I'm like, I don't know what that means. And it's probably because I was never introduced to anything like what you're talking about. So I'm like, I don't know. I know when my hand hurts, that's what it hurts. But they're like, "Tell me exactly what's going on with your hand." I'd be like, "Fucking hurts." Like I'm not eloquent in those things. Just like when somebody asks me about the flavor of things, they're like, "Oh, what kind of wine do you like?" And I'm like, "Fuck, I don't know, just good ones."
Caveman answers.
Yeah, I can't break down the intricacies of that because my brain just doesn't process this.
Just haven't fine-tuned it.
In that fine-tuned detail of self-reflection and all.
But it's also because you're not like a wine aficionado. You don't go out and
can't do
explore
it with really
that,
anything.
Going back to our strengths, we're good at our strengths. We know what we know.
Yeah,
and that is the best knowledge.
Beer. Tasty.
Tastes good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a hard thing as a parent though, like, because it's so easy just to want to feel that, that lack of knowledge or just inject the answer and to hold back and watch your kids struggle. It's so hard.
I hate it. And it's hard. You like back to the car accidents. Like, I could easily help you with this. It's same thing with knowledge too. I have knowledge that you don't.
There's a been on this earth long enough, you get that. Mm-hmm. And that's why I always think teenagers are shitty. I'm like, you're the shittiest people because they have a little bit of information and they think they have the confidence and the arrogance that they know something, but they don't understand that you've been on this earth far longer, and they kind of, in their own way, they like talk to you like you're stupid, and you're like,
Yeah.
you think I got more dumb as time went on? Like, no, you'll learn more and you'll experience more.
There's a question often posed by so many people about like, why is there suffering in the world and hardship, and like, why can't God just make everything like good for everybody if there's really a God? And I always think about like these kind of scenarios. I'm like, if you didn't have some level of suffering or difficulty, how would you know the difference? How would you know what good is? How would you know what joy is if you didn't have a level of suffering? And I really do think it's intentional. Like, we may not like it as people, and we're very selfish in thinking about our own life and world and the emotions that we feel that we were, was put into our DNA. But you have to have suffering. You have to have those lessons to learn. Otherwise, how do we know anything?
Yeah, you can't have good without bad. You can't have, joy without some sort of despair. Like, otherwise, if everything was good,
you wouldn't
even know it was good. It was just that status quo.
You wouldn't know how to
It
exist.
is.
We would be robots. We would have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
There would be no joy.
Right.
What would separate us from a computer? Like, right?
Yeah.
And it's weird to think about. Like, it's almost unfortunate, but at the same time, like, how can you not realize that?
It's unfortunate, and it's hard to watch.
Yeah.
Especially if you have the knowledge of something and you could make something better for somebody. But at the same time, well, they got to learn this too.
But then that drives us as humans, right? Like, that drives you to want to learn how to do things to improve people, improve circumstances, and help others. If you didn't have that pain, where would the desire be, right? It's kind of like when you don't have something, you usually have a desire to get it, and you're going to find a way.
Yeah.
Well,
the drive.
Right. And I mean, even looking at the examples in and of itself, it's like you had a difficult upbringing, so you probably feel more joyous as an adult. You're like, look at all the things I'm able to provide for my children. Same thing with you. Same thing with me. It's like when you deal with tough times, you actually go back, and we had a podcast on that. It's like you reflect on it and you're like, it was worth it.
Yeah.
Because now I can appreciate the things that I have. You can't appreciate it if it's just given to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unearned. But when you have tough experience with your mom gone and going to prison, or, and it's like, okay, well, now I want to be better. Which kind of, I guess, leads me into another question is like, how do your children know about grandma, and do they have a relationship with grandma? And are you able to use her as an example, like as a life lesson to them?
Yeah. And I have, and that's a big struggle right now. My mom is like the epitome of a narcissist. She doesn't really hang around. She doesn't come around. I have invited her to birthdays and things like that, but
that's big of you.
Yeah. Well, let me jump to that for a second, because this was one of those pivotal moments in my adult life. I'll say understanding and the relationship with my mom is, she has this story that she tells people. Is like, my kids are so awful to me. They don't let me see my grandkids. They're the reason why I'm homeless. They're like all these things. It's me, my brother, my sister. It's all our fault. And how after everything she did as a single mom raising us and did so good and got us out of the ghetto and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I lost my train of thought.
How has that affected the way you?
Yeah. So the things that I'm learning with my mom right now have really changed my perspective on a lot of things. And one of the things that was happening is she was telling these stories about me. It's all my fault. And I'm like, that's not me. That's not the truth. And so I was inviting her to birthdays, to Christmases. It would always end up in disaster or her not coming, and then blaming me. For instance, Grant won his first go-kart race on his birthday. I invited everybody over to the go-kart track. It's Grant's birthday. We're going to have cake. He's racing. Let's have a good time. She didn't come. because my dad's wife was going to be there. How dare you invite me? Don't ever invite me when she's, that bitch is around. I can't stand her, da, 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 da. And so my mom didn't come. It's my fault that she didn't come to Grant's birthday because I invited this other person. I'm like, that is not my fault. I don't care. So anyways, I was talking with a coworker who has gone through NA and has really done a lot with their life and changed and going through therapy. And this person asked me, why do you keep inviting your mom to places?
Good question.
It is a great
I would
question.
ask you the same thing.
And I said, because I don't want to be the person she says I am.
Mm.
And my coworker looked at me and she said, are you? And I said, no. Then who are you trying to prove it to?
Right.
Like, fuck.
Yeah.
So that really turned things. And I am very open, back to your question about, my kids, is I'm open with them. I don't tell them all the crazy stuff going on.
So they're not going to watch this podcast?
They might. I'll let Grant watch this podcast. They know she does that Grandma Sherry does some things that I don't approve of. And, they pick up on things themselves. One of the things that my mom does is when she shows up, which it hasn't been in going on 2 years now, brings gifts and gifts that I know she stole or something. And it's just crap. It's not even cool stuff. It's stuff that, oh, you like Pokemon? Look at all this Pokemon stuff and little figurines or something that kids don't give a crap about.
Right.
And they're like, thanks. They're not going to be rude and be like, yeah, we don't want this. But then later on, they'll make comments to me. If I'm like, yeah, I talked to Grandma Sherry, she might come over. And the kids will be like, oh, great. Is she going to bring us a whole bunch of crap again?
Mm-hmm.
Like they pick up on things.
Yeah.
And so I don't sit there and tell them a bunch of stuff. But if they ask questions,
right,
I'll tell them.
Because it's without living the life, you can still learn from the life.
Gosh,
Yeah.
I hope so, man. Because that's
Me
one of
too.
my biggest fears.
Right.
Is I do believe that through everything that I saw, I knew what I didn't want.
Mm-hmm.
How are my kids going to know what they don't want if they don't
Right.
see it? It's something that goes on in
Yeah.
my mind.
It's like the chasing comfort or
Growth. Yeah.
growth. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to showcase and share some of that you've learned from in those trials and tribulations. And
And you hope it sticks. It probably won't in the early ages and maybe not even as teenagers because they don't have perspective or scope. But you hope that the lessons still resonate and stick.
yeah, the greatest tragedy is always like something really bad happening or situation, and then that being repeated because somebody didn't learn from it. Like you want to share it.
Yeah.
Just like history, you want to talk about it, you want to share it so people don't repeat it.
Mm-hmm.
And to withhold that would be almost a bigger issue.
Mhm.
Obviously, there's a timing element when it comes to kids. You don't need to share everything at a young age, but in due time, it's good to share certain things. And the same with my kids. We try to share when we think they're ready for that lesson, or pose questions. Like you said, pose questions to see if they are developing their own reasoning and their ability to kind of process and learn to make better decisions.
Okay, so I guess you've been successfully married for a long time. Your mom obviously had some relationship issues. How do you and Michelle show a healthy, I guess, relationship in with a stadium of boys that's in your house all the time? Because you also, your house is always filled with other kids and whatnot. So how do you do that and model a good example of what a husband's supposed to look like or could look like?
Yeah, one of the things that I try really hard to do is not, and this is something Michelle asked me to do, so I didn't intrinsically know it. It was pointed out to me. I'm like, wow, I need to do that. Is saying things like, we need to help your mom clean the house. Right? Like Michelle is for the most part a stay-at-home mom, and she takes care of the house and she takes care of laundry, and the boys do their own laundry and stuff now. But those types of comments, it's like, no, this is a we thing. Hey, we need to help clean the house. And it's always being that partner. And a lot of times the kids too, they'll come up to me, like I'll walk in the door from work or something, like, Dad, can I play video games? I'm like, I am not the person that knows what has gone on in this house.
They're negotiating and they're like, oh, I'm in trouble over here. I'm going to ask this question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're looking for that easy answer. It's like, I don't know. Like, talk to your mom. She's been with you all day.
Yeah.
What's gotten done or not done?
Yeah.
Before you ask me that.
They're crafty.
Oh, yeah. They do that all the time to us. They're always like sneaky. And then it's like, oh, well, Dad said I could do this. And then later on, it's like, well, Mom asked you earlier to do X, Y, Z, and you did none of those things. You probably should have shared that with me before you asked.
I feel like our relationship is always like we just have to always check with the other one.
You got to cross check.
We have to cross. We have to cross check. It's like, hey, can I do this? If it's okay with your mom.
Or you're texting your partner and you're like, hey, the kids are asking me this. Is there anything I should know before I give them a response?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, it's always been on that united front. And I've had that discussion with them as I say, me and your mom are on the same team.
Right.
We're always on the same team and we're going to work together. And there's been times where she's doing something or approaching something a certain way and I'm going, that's not what I would be doing right now. It's not what I would do. And so her and I have, looks like if she does it, I think, to me more often than I will to her. But I'll be.
She gives you the stank eye.
Yeah. It's usually the like, this isn't working right now.
Right.
You should stop. And so, yeah, it's things like that. And at the same time, Michelle and I, we don't fight. And I actually heard a quote the other day. I saw this guy talking, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but the basics of the quote is that if you really love somebody and you have to have a difficult conversation with them, after that difficult conversation, you're closer. You're not farther apart. And it resonated so much with me. And every time that I've ever had to have like a tough conversation with Michelle, it's because we were growing closer. And so I've shared little moments like that with my boys as well, is me and your mom are a team where I'm not going to ever say something against what she said, especially, with you guys or with others. And that's not the image I want to give.
Yeah. We may go to the back room and have a conversation, a sidebar conversation. Like, well, you're a little out of line on that, but
yeah,
I'll never be in front of you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
100%. And I think that's healthy. I think that's the most healthy way to do it is we have to be able to be our own checks and balances. If I'm out of line and Janelle can pull me aside, like, well, I'm not really sure about that. I may stick to my guns on that, but they have to have the courage, and you have to have the courage to bring up that on behalf of the kids, because they're not always wrong. Sometimes emotions get into it, and we're a little out of whack, out of balance. And I think it's important.
They definitely teach you some things, and as annoying as it can be to have that question of why are you telling me no or whatever, it's like it can be annoying, but sometimes it's valid, and there's a lesson there. And as a parent, not being because I told you so, like taking the moment to be like, well, here's why, and explaining.
Yeah,
and like you said, it's a slow journey that way, but I think it's better in the long run, but it can be frustrating for sure.
Yeah. And anytime I have a moment with Jeff, and I have recently talked about this, the saying no is anytime you have a moment where you're not just retroactively talking about the no, but proactively. And I've had chats with Carson. I'm like, Carson, look, man, you're coming to me at like 5:30 in the afternoon on a Friday night saying, can the Daigles stay the night? And I'm like, I don't even know where they're at right now. Like, we got to talk to them and see what's going. Like, no, man, it's too soon. So finally had a chat with him and saying, Carson, look, I don't want to say no all the time. I want to say yes. Let's find a way to get to yes. In order to do that, here's what I need you to do. Instead of on Friday night asking if, kids can stay the night, or we can go to a movie, or can we do this? It's tell me ahead of time, hey, can the Daigles stay the night sometime soon? Absolutely. Let me see when they're available. Let me see what's going on, and we'll make that happen. But when you ask like right now, it's like, I got to say no. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah, the approach is so important. And going back to lessons that are beneficial later in life too, like that holds true to teaching your kids that now, like how you approach asking your parents for something can translate down the road to how do you ask for a raise in the workplace. Like, do you just be like, hey, I want more money? Or do you maybe when your boss is available, you say, hey, at some point in the future, can we sit down and talk about how I can add more value to this company? And in lieu of like earn some more money. Like, I've been here a long time. What can I do to be more valuable? I'd like to have a chat with you about that when you got a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
How much different would that be versus like sending a letter and saying, I feel like I deserve more money? That's
Oh,
the easy way, which is how kids are. They ask just
Right.
It's
easy.
that gut reaction.
Yeah,
It's
they're just
the,
looking
"I
for a
want it
quick
now."
answer.
Yep.
And learning and teaching as a parent, like, hey, I don't want to say no. Most bosses don't want to say no to more money if you're bringing value and you're truly a valuable asset and approaching it the right way. Like, I would love to pay you more money. How do you approach me on it, though?
Right.
It's really
And
important.
It comes down to impulses. And again, second kid, it's talking about, how do you control the impulses and addictions, video games, things like that. How do you recognize an impulse decision versus one you've thought through? And when they're mad, you mentioned like earlier, getting mad and screaming and stuff. It's like, you're allowed to be mad. The totally valid. I'm not saying that you can't be mad, but what you do after that is the big thing. How are you going to react? Yeah. How are you controlling that impulse? Are you thinking it through?
Yeah. No, I've taken that and tried to apply it. Try to get my kids to apply that one. And they actually, Tyler did the other week. And again, it was I love when we do this.
Mm-hmm.
Can we do that sometime soon? Perfect. I know. And it's like, I can say yes to that pretty much always. Versus the immediate, hey, can we do this now? No, we can't do this now because there's a cajillion things that we're already doing. So I took that from you and I love to apply it and it's good.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, this has been a super valuable conversation, I think, for a lot of people. And we really appreciate hanging out with us today. One of the big things we always want to do is just cause perspective shifts. It's the name of our show, Broken Perspective. And I think your story and your upbringing and the things that you've been able to accomplish in life has really shown that and illustrated that things don't have to stay the same. Despite your upbringing, so much more out there. Is there anything that you think you can share with anybody who may have grown up in a difficult way? Maybe who's still young. Think of those teenagers out there who are the prior Jasons of the world. What would your message be to them in a time where they're maybe going through some shit and they need a little bit of encouragement?
Yeah, I would say it's easy to say look for the mentors, but what I would say instead of like looking for the mentors is kind of open your perspective to the people or the things happening around you that are positive that you may not instantly recognize. And that's what I believe I got really, really good at. So pay attention to all the things that are happening around you, the people that are going against the grain that you're used to, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you're in the shit and you notice somebody that's not, pay attention to them and see what they've done, maybe get inquisitive and ask questions. Yeah, it's weird because it just happened for me. And so that's I think the big thing is just be open to looking for it and don't just be stuck in what you know and kind of what you're used to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Okay. 100%.
Push forward and try. Like, I think one of the things that I always respected so greatly about you is if something's put in front of you, you'll look at it and go, is this something I want to take on and tackle? And if the answer is yes, because it's a positive for you and your family, you kind of go all in and make that happen. And you're not, from the outside, it appears that you're not scared of maybe not achieving it. You're going to go and you're going to make sure that it gets done. But at least that's from my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, no, made perfect sense. It's good.
Yeah.
When you're in a time of struggle, like look for those who are doing something different and watch them. Be keen on that. Find out what is working and how to model that or how to associate with them.
Yeah.
And learn.
It'll probably feel foreign. You're so used to whatever you're comfortable with, and you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So look for the people that are doing something that seems uncomfortable to you because you're just not used to it, and pay attention and see what you can learn.
Yo. All right, Jason. Appreciate your time
Thank you
coming on the
guys.
show and hanging out.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, my friend.
Yep. Another episode of Broken Perspective Podcast. Appreciate you guys as always, and we'll see you on the next one.
See you.
Bye.